Researchers at Harvard once discovered something fascinating. People who shared their personal plans too early were far less likely to achieve them. Why? Because the applause they received from others tricked their brain into feeling the job was already done. That's not just science, it's the same wisdom God whispered centuries ago. Some things are never meant to be spoken aloud. There are secrets so sacred, so powerful, that when revealed carelessly, they can destroy your future, weaken your spirit, and even invite enemies you never saw coming. Today, I want to walk you through the 5 things God Himself warns us never tell anyone. When you look at life, there is a sacred power in silence that most people underestimate. Every dream that has ever changed the world was first nurtured quietly in the unseen places of the heart before it was revealed to the eyes of the world. God has always whispered this wisdom to those who listen. Some visions are not meant to be shared too early. Some plans are not meant to be spoken before they are ready, because words can either build the wings of your destiny or break them before you ever take flight. There is a reason why even Scripture says Joseph told his dream too soon, and the envy of his brothers almost destroyed him. It was not the dream that was wrong. It was the timing of sharing it that placed him in the pit. This is not just a biblical story. It is a timeless pattern of human life that repeats itself across generations. When you tell your next move before its season, you give people the power to kill it in their minds, to speak doubt into it, to poison it before it has roots, and sometimes to steal it as if it was their own. Science agrees with this ancient truth. Researchers at Harvard found that when people announce their goals publicly, their brain releases dopamine, the same chemical released when the goal is actually achieved. That burst of pleasure tricks the mind into believing the work is already done, and motivation fades. People lose their hunger, they lose their fight, and they end up with empty promises instead of completed victories. This is why so many people in our modern age have long lists of plans, but very little to show for them. They spoke their vision into the air, they posted it on social media, they told their friends, and the very act of announcing it stole their fire. Their soul was satisfied with the illusion of success instead of the reality of it. Psychology explains it in another way. The moment you share a future plan, people project their fears, doubts, and insecurities onto you. They might not even mean harm, but words have power. If you tell someone, "I'm going to start a new business," instead of cheering, they may reply, "That's too risky, the economy is bad, people are losing money, maybe you should stick to something safe." If your foundation is not strong enough, their words become seeds of doubt inside your own mind. The brain is sensitive to repetition. When you hear something often enough, even if it's a lie, it begins to carve new pathways in your thinking. You start to hesitate, you start to question yourself, and hesitation is the silent killer of destiny. Think about the greatest innovations in history. The light bulb was not announced in a marketplace before it was invented. The airplane was not a headline before it had wings. Great men and women of history worked in silence, endured ridicule in private, and only spoke when their creation could no longer be denied. In America, Steve Jobs spent years perfecting his craft before unveiling the iPhone. He didn't stand on a stage and tell the world, "I'm going to build a device that changes everything." He worked in silence, and then when the time was right, he stunned the world with a finished masterpiece. That is why it had power. That is why it could not be stopped. The wisdom of holding your move in silence gave it strength. There is also a spiritual dimension. The enemy of your soul cannot read your mind, but he listens to your words. When you speak carelessly about your plans, you make them vulnerable to spiritual attacks. Doors that God was opening for you can suddenly face opposition not because they weren't meant for you, but because you exposed them before they were secure. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a shield. It protects your purpose until it is ready to stand on its own. A seed grows best in hidden soil. If you dig it up every day to show others what you planted, it will never sprout. So it is with your plans. God hides them because hidden things grow deeper roots. Now think about your own life. How many times have you told a friend or family member about a dream, only to feel their doubt deflate your excitement? Maybe you wanted to go back to school, start a new job, launch an idea, or even rebuild your health. You shared it with someone, hoping they would encourage you, but instead they gave you reasons why it wouldn't work. And if you were honest, some of those reasons stuck in your mind and weakened your resolve. This is why silence is wisdom. Not everyone deserves access to your inner garden. Some people trample it without even realizing what they're doing. Protect it. Neuroscience reveals that silence itself changes the brain. Studies from Duke University show that 2 hours of silence a day creates new brain cells in the hippocampus, the region associated with learning, memory, and emotion. When you hold back from constant talking, your brain grows stronger, your focus sharpens, and your inner strength multiplies. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is the workshop where strength is built. When you keep your next move unspoken, you give your mind room to imagine, to prepare, to visualize with clarity, and to move with power when the moment comes. Let me give you an example you can feel. Picture a boxer preparing for a championship fight. He doesn't walk around telling his opponent his next strategy. He trains in silence, he studies his moves, he builds his strength where no one is watching, and on the day of the fight, he unleashes everything he has been hiding. That is why he wins. If he had spoken every move before stepping into the ring, his opponent would have crushed him. Life is the same. Your fight is real, and you don't win by announcing your punches before you throw them. You win by moving in silence and striking when the time is right. Some people confuse silence with loneliness or fear. But silence is not fear, it is preparation. It is the armor of those who understand destiny. Even Jesus often went alone to quiet places to pray, away from the crowd, away from the noise, away from the voices that did not understand him. He knew that revelation grows in secret, and when the time was right, he spoke with authority. If the Son of God valued silence, who are we to waste our destiny by revealing too much, too soon? There's also a cultural trap in America today that makes this even more dangerous. Social media has trained people to share everything. Every meal, every trip, every plan, every dream gets posted before it has even lived a day. People chase likes and comments instead of real progress. It feels good for a moment, but that temporary applause steals the deeper fulfillment that comes from finishing. We are raising a generation addicted to approval instead of addicted to purpose. And the tragedy is that many will die with their dreams half-built, not because they lack talent or resources, but because they gave away their power with their words. There is a sacred art to silence that your soul must learn. The wise builder lays his foundation in secret. The musician practices where no one can hear. The athlete runs miles before the crowd ever cheers. The writer scribbles in notebooks long before the book is published. Silence is not punishment, it is investment. It multiplies your strength so that when you step into the light, no one can deny what has been built. Fear is also part of why people reveal too much. We feel insecure, so we talk. We want validation, so we announce. We want comfort, so we share with anyone who will listen. But the truth is that validation does not build destiny. Validation is a sugar high. It fades. What builds destiny is discipline, consistency, and the courage to walk in silence until the moment of unveiling. If you can learn to silence the craving for approval, you can learn to walk in the strength of purpose. The poet Rumi once said, "The quieter you become, the more you can hear." In silence, you hear God. In silence, you hear your own soul. In silence, you hear the whispers of wisdom that the noise of the world tries to drown. And in that hearing, you build clarity that cannot be shaken. When you reveal your move too soon, you not only lose energy, you lose clarity. But when you keep it close to your chest, your vision sharpens and your steps grow more powerful. So, if there is a dream burning inside you, let it stay hidden until it is ready. Guard it like a mother guards the life within her womb. No mother announces every detail of pregnancy on the first day because she knows that life is fragile in the beginning. She protects it in silence until it is strong enough to survive. Your dreams are no different. They are fragile in the beginning, and the wrong words, the wrong timing, the wrong exposure can destroy them. Protect them until they are ready to live in the light. And when the time comes, when the roots are deep and the branches are strong, when the fruit is undeniable, then let the world see. At that moment, no doubt, no jealousy, no opposition can stop you, because what God has blessed is unshakable. That is the power of keeping your next move in silence. There is something dangerous about speaking too openly about wealth. Not because money itself is evil, but because of what the human heart does when wealth is exposed. God's wisdom tells us that humility is protection, and that pride opens the door to downfall. When you reveal too much about what you have, you unknowingly awaken emotions in others that you cannot control. Envy begins to grow, jealousy creeps in, competition silently rises, and even those who once smiled at you may begin to see you differently. A simple number in your bank account, once shared, can become the seed of broken trust, poisoned relationships, and even betrayal. This is why silence about wealth is not secrecy born of fear, but wisdom born of love and safety. Think of the way Jesus spoke about riches. He never condemned wealth itself, but he warned about its power to deceive the heart and change relationships. When people boast about money, they begin to build walls of pride, and those walls push others away. Yet when people remain silent and humble about what they have, they protect not only themselves, but the peace of those around them. A family that speaks too openly about its riches often suffers from broken bonds because siblings compare, relatives gossip, and neighbors quietly resent them. This is not a guess. It is a pattern repeated over centuries of human history. Psychology confirms what Scripture already knew. Social scientists have studied how people react when they discover the financial standing of those around them. Jealousy rises not just among enemies, but even among friends. Studies show that when someone speaks openly about their wealth, the people listening subconsciously begin to measure their own lives against it. They feel smaller, less successful, less valued. This comparison fuels quiet resentment. Even if they smile and congratulate, deep inside they carry a silent bitterness. That bitterness changes the dynamic of a relationship forever. The one who shared feels proud for a moment, but the ones who listen carry wounds that may never fully heal. In America, this truth is visible everywhere. Social media is filled with people showing expensive cars, luxury vacations, designer clothes, and big houses. At first glance, it looks like inspiration. But look deeper and you will find the comments section filled with both admiration and hidden hatred. Some people feel motivated, but many feel envious, angry, and bitter. Some even plot ways to take advantage of the one showing off. People forget that the more you reveal, the more vulnerable you become. Thieves do not need to guess who has money when people display it so freely. Even crime follows exposure. Silence, on the other hand, protects. It hides you in plain sight. It keeps your life safer, your friendships purer, and your family bonds stronger. There's also a psychological trap that comes with boasting about wealth. The person who constantly talks about their money often becomes enslaved by the image they have created. They feel pressured to always look successful, to maintain the lifestyle they announced, and to keep impressing others. This leads to stress, anxiety, and sometimes debt because they begin living for appearances instead of reality. They lose the joy of living simply and start chasing endless approval. They become prisoners of their own words. Silence frees them from this prison. When you don't announce what you have, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You can live in peace, enjoy your blessings, and grow your wealth without carrying the heavy burden of public opinion. Science even shows how envy changes the brain. When someone feels jealous, their stress hormones rise, their body experiences anxiety, and their trust in others declines. That means every time you reveal your wealth, you might unintentionally cause harm not only to your relationships, but also to the health of those around you. Jealousy has been linked to depression, anger, and even physical illness. By being silent, you protect the mental and emotional well-being of those you love. Silence is not selfish, it is a shield of compassion. Think about stories from real life. There are countless families in America where siblings fought bitterly over inheritance because one sibling bragged too much about what they had. There are marriages that broke apart because one partner flaunted wealth and made the other feel insignificant. There are friendships that ended in betrayal because one person couldn't handle the success of the other. These tragedies were not caused by wealth itself, but by the careless exposure of it. What could have been protected through humility was destroyed by unnecessary words. There is a beauty in living quietly even when you are blessed. A person who drives a modest car, though they can afford a luxury one, is often happier because they live for themselves, not for applause. A person who gives generously without announcing their donations builds treasures in heaven that cannot be stolen. A family that enjoys wealth privately creates a sanctuary of peace, where love is not measured by numbers, but by loyalty and care. This is wisdom that transcends culture, age, and time. Even children are impacted by how their parents talk about wealth. A child who constantly hears, "We are rich, we have more than others," grows up with pride and entitlement. A child who grows up in silence about wealth learns gratitude, humility, and responsibility. Silence shapes character. Silence teaches that money is a tool, not an identity. The truth is, life is fragile. What you have today can disappear tomorrow. If you build your identity on money, you will crumble when it fades. If you build your identity on character, faith, and love, no loss can destroy you. This is why speaking too loudly about wealth is dangerous. You tie your worth to something unstable. God's wisdom teaches us to build our house on the rock, not on shifting sand. Wealth is shifting sand. It can move, it can vanish, it can deceive. But character is the rock. When you keep silent about your wealth, you remind yourself that you are more than your possessions. There's another danger that silence prevents: exploitation. When people know you have wealth, they treat you differently. Some come close not out of love, but out of interest. They see you as a resource to be used rather than a soul to be loved. This is why so many wealthy individuals feel lonely. They never know who truly cares for them and who is there for what they can give. Silence solves this. When no one knows the depth of your wealth, those who stay close are there for you, not for your money. It filters your relationships, protecting your heart from false love and shallow loyalty. Spiritual wisdom confirms this truth. The book of Proverbs says, "A fool flaunts his wealth, but the wise man keeps it quiet." This was written thousands of years ago, yet echoes today with even more urgency. The modern world rewards showmanship, but heaven rewards humility. The quiet soul who carries wealth with grace and discretion is far richer in God's eyes than the one who spends life bragging. Because God measures not by the size of your bank account, but by the condition of your heart. Let me bring it closer. Think about the workplace in America. The colleague who constantly talks about their salary or bonus creates tension in the office. Others begin to feel undervalued, and the atmosphere becomes toxic. On the other hand, the colleague who works hard, lives quietly, and does not boast about their income is respected more because they embody humility. Silence in this case is not just personal wisdom. It creates peace in the community around you. History also teaches this lesson. Many great leaders who lived humbly despite their wealth were loved and remembered with honor, while those who flaunted riches often fell from power, hated by those they ruled. Pride in wealth has always led to downfall, but humility in wealth has always led to legacy. When your wealth is silent, your character shines. When your wealth is loud, your character is hidden. Which one do you want people to remember when you are gone? Even your own spirit suffers when you talk too much about money. Constantly thinking, speaking, and boasting about wealth ties your soul to material things. It makes you restless, greedy, and never satisfied. But when you keep it quiet, you enjoy wealth without being enslaved by it. You learn contentment. You learn gratitude. You live lighter, freer, happier. Silence is not loss. Silence is freedom. So keep your wealth sacred. Speak not of numbers, but of blessings. Let your actions show generosity, not your words. Let your family enjoy peace without the poison of comparison. Let your friends love you for who you are, not for what you have. Protect your heart, your relationships, and your soul by keeping the depth of your wealth between you and God. The one who knows your bank account best is the one who gave it to you, and his wisdom says to walk humbly, not loudly. There's something sacred about a good deed when it is done in silence. When kindness is spoken about too loudly, it begins to lose its purity. God has always taught this wisdom with simplicity. When you give, let not your left hand know what your right hand is doing. That instruction is not just about secrecy, it is about preserving the holiness of an act. A deed loses its eternal fragrance when it is bathed in pride. It becomes about the applause of men rather than the pleasure of God. The deepest truth is that the moment you announce your kindness, it becomes more about your image than the heart of the act. The human soul is wired to long for recognition. It feels good when someone notices what we do. Yet the trap is hidden there because the craving for recognition takes what is holy and turns it into performance. The psychological reality is that when people witness your act of kindness and applaud it, your brain releases dopamine, giving you a rush of pleasure. But like all dopamine highs, it fades quickly. What's left is emptiness, and the next time you do a good deed, your heart quietly expects the same applause. When it doesn't come, you feel disappointment instead of joy. A blessing that should have given you peace begins to create frustration. The cycle continues until good deeds are no longer driven by love, but by the addiction to validation. History is filled with people who gave in silence and built legacies that lasted generations. Think about the anonymous donors who funded schools, hospitals, and charities without ever attaching their names. Their names may not be written on walls, but their impact is written in lives transformed. Then compare it to those who broadcast their generosity for attention. Their names may appear in headlines, but headlines fade. The applause of the crowd lasts a moment, while the gratitude of heaven lasts forever. There is also a relational cost when you boast about good deeds. People begin to question your intentions. If someone hears you constantly talk about how much you give, how many people you helped, or what sacrifices you made, they begin to wonder if you are truly kind or simply performing. Trust weakens. Authenticity fades. People no longer see your act as genuine, but as self-serving. This is why silent kindness is more powerful. It doesn't ask for proof. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't beg for recognition. It simply flows from love. Think of a parent who sacrifices for their child. The child doesn't need to hear daily reminders of a sacrifice to feel loved. The silent actions, the late nights, the early mornings, the endless work speak louder than words. When love is true, it doesn't need a microphone. The same is true for kindness. Real kindness is quiet. It doesn't push itself forward. It allows the results to speak. God also measures deeds differently than man. Scripture says, when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. This principle extends beyond prayer into every act of righteousness. The Creator sees in secret what no human eye sees, and the unseen reward of heaven is far greater than the temporary applause of earth. To trade eternal treasure for a few claps is one of the greatest losses a soul can suffer. There's also a scientific side to this truth. Studies show that people who give quietly feel deeper fulfillment than those who give publicly. Their brains activate regions associated with long-term happiness rather than short-term pleasure. Quiet givers report a sense of purpose, while loud givers often report stress from the pressure of keeping up their image. Silence in kindness does not just protect the deed, it protects the giver's soul from unnecessary weight. Let me tell you a story. A man once gave away coats to children in winter. He did it quietly, slipping them into homes at night without anyone knowing. Years later, those children grew up remembering the mysterious kindness that saved them from freezing. They never knew his name, but his act lived forever in their hearts. Contrast that with another man who gave money loudly, reminding everyone of his generosity. People took his money, but whispered doubts about his pride. One left a legacy of love, the other left only memories of noise. Which one do you think God smiled upon? Which one do you think found true joy in giving? Children are also shaped by how we handle good deeds. A child who hears a parent constantly brag about helping others learns that kindness is a stage performance. They begin to connect giving with showing off. A child who watches a parent give quietly learns that love is sacred, that compassion is genuine, and that kindness is its own reward. Silent deeds plant seeds of humility in the next generation. Loud deeds plant seeds of pride. What kind of garden do you want to grow in the hearts of those who watch you? Relationships also flourish more in silence. When you help a friend but never remind them of it, your bond deepens. Gratitude flows naturally, untainted by pressure. But if you constantly remind a friend of what you did for them, they begin to feel indebted, even trapped. Love becomes a debt instead of a gift. That is not love at all. True kindness frees, it does not chain. It uplifts, it does not humiliate. Silent good deeds protect the dignity of those who receive them. Loud good deeds often wound the very ones they claim to help. Society has also fallen into a dangerous pattern of broadcasting good deeds for attention. Videos of giving to the homeless, of helping the poor, of donating large sums are often made for views rather than compassion. The tragedy is that the humanity of the person in need becomes a tool for someone else's image. The act that should have been holy becomes a spectacle. The poor man's dignity is stripped away in exchange for online approval. This is why the greatest kindness is done without cameras, without announcements, without the need to prove anything. Silence also protects your heart from pride. Pride is subtle. It whispers, let them know what you did, let them see your sacrifice, let them admire your goodness. It feels harmless at first, but pride slowly shifts the focus from God to self. What was meant to glorify love becomes a mirror of self-admiration. Pride blinds the soul, while humility keeps the heart soft. Silent deeds crush pride before it can take root. Think about hospitals. Many wings and buildings are named after donors, but the greatest stories come from anonymous givers who asked for nothing in return. Their silence made the gift more powerful. People often wonder who gave this, and that mystery inspires even more than the name on the wall. The unknown giver teaches that kindness belongs to the heart, not to a title. even your inner peace is tied to this truth. When you do good quietly, you walk away with calmness. There is no need to check if people noticed, no need to replay their reaction, no need to measure the applause. You know you gave, and that is enough. But when you do good loudly, your mind becomes restless. You replay who clapped, who smiled, who congratulated. Your joy depends on their approval, and if they fail to respond the way you hoped, your peace is shattered. Silence frees you from this trap. There is also a deep beauty in mystery. When people sense you are kind but cannot trace the details, they respect you more. The aura of silent strength is more attractive than the noise of constant self-praise. Mystery draws people in, noise pushes them away. Silent deeds build respect, loud deeds build suspicion. Which one do you want surrounding your life? And think of the eternal perspective. At the end of life, when all words have faded, what will matter is not how many people knew your good deeds, but how many hearts were touched by them. The applause of earth will not follow you into eternity, but the unseen rewards of heaven will. Every quiet act is written in the book of life with ink that never fades. Every loud boast is erased as quickly as the sound leaves your lips. Which record do you want your life to hold? So give without speaking, love without broadcasting, help without demanding recognition. Let your life be a river that flows quietly, refreshing everyone it touches without needing to shout about its journey. Let your kindness echo in heaven, not in headlines. Let your humility guard your deeds so that they carry eternal weight. Because the greatest good is the good that speaks for itself, not the one you announce with your mouth. There's a reason why God tells us to guard our hearts and to protect the sacred places of our soul. Pain is not just a feeling, it is a door. When you open that door carelessly to anyone, you are letting them walk into the most fragile part of you, and not everyone who enters comes with healing hands. Some come with careless words that cut deeper than the wound itself. Some come with empty hearts that cannot even understand your cries. Some come with intentions that look like compassion, but carry judgment waiting to crush you when you are at your weakest. That is why the wisdom of silence about your deepest pain is not about hiding, it is about protecting the soil of your heart until the right season for healing arrives. Think about it for a moment. Every one of us carries scars. Some from childhood, some from betrayal, some from dreams that broke in the middle of our hands. And when the weight grows heavy, we long to release it, to pour it out before anyone willing to listen. But what we forget is that not every listener is worthy of the story. Not every ear is safe. There are people who will hold your pain like treasure, speaking life into your wounds, walking with you until light shines again. But there are also people who will take your vulnerability and use it as a weapon. They may gossip about it. They may throw it back at you in anger. They may make you feel small, as though your pain defines you instead of refining you. And when that happens, the pain doubles because it is no longer just the hurt itself, but the betrayal of trust that adds another stone to your already heavy load. The heart was designed by God with chambers. Think of it like a home with rooms. Some rooms are open for everyone. That is where laughter lives, where daily conversations unfold. But some rooms are sacred, filled with the most delicate memories, the hardest battles, the deepest cries. Those rooms are not meant for every visitor. They are meant for God, for those who truly love you, for the rare souls who will not just hear your pain, but carry it with you without judgment. When you let the wrong person into those rooms, it is like letting a thief walk into your sanctuary. They may not steal your possessions, but they steal your peace. And that is why wisdom tells us, never share the depth of your pain with just anyone. Science even shows us something powerful about this. Studies in psychology reveal that when people share trauma too openly with strangers or unsupportive individuals, the brain relives the pain and increases stress hormones. Instead of healing, the body sinks deeper into anxiety and depression. On the other hand, when pain is shared in safe spaces, like with a trusted friend, a counselor, or in prayer, the body releases oxytocin and reduces cortisol, allowing genuine healing to begin. The difference is not in the act of speaking, but in the atmosphere in which it is spoken. You see, the wrong soil will kill even the strongest seed. The wrong listener will choke even the strongest hope. There's also a spiritual side to this. The Bible speaks of pouring our hearts before God because He alone can carry the weight fully. People can walk with us, but they cannot heal us. Only God can enter the unseen places where pain has built its walls. When you share every wound with people, you risk making them the center of your healing, and that sets you up for disappointment. Humans can comfort, but they cannot restore. That belongs to the divine. So when God says guard your heart, He is not telling you to stay silent forever. He is telling you to choose wisely where you bleed. To cry before Him first, to let Him shape your tears into strength before you offer your pain as a story to another. Now, let's talk about the danger of overexposure. In this age of social media, people share their heartbreaks online for thousands of strangers to see. They think it is release, but what it often becomes is a stage for judgment, misunderstanding, or even mockery. That public exposure of pain often leaves the heart more vulnerable, not less. Because you may feel temporary comfort in the likes or comments, but deep down, the wound remains unhealed, waiting for true care that the crowd cannot provide. And if you are not careful, you will start defining yourself by your pain story, wearing it as your identity instead of your testimony. There is a difference. Identity says, "This is who I am." Testimony says, "This is what I survived." And that shift only happens when you protect your pain until it has matured into wisdom. Let me give you a picture. Think of a seed planted underground. In its early days, it is fragile, soft, and easily destroyed. If you dig it up too soon and expose it to the air, it will never grow into the tree it was meant to be. But if you leave it in the soil, if you let the darkness and silence nurture it, in time it pushes roots deep enough to rise. Pain is like that seed. Shared too early or with the wrong soil, it dies. Protected, prayed over, entrusted to the right people, it becomes a tree of strength whose shade one day blesses others. That is why your pain must be guarded, not as a secret of shame, but as a sacred process of transformation. We all know someone who once shared too much with the wrong person. Maybe you trusted a coworker, and later your pain became office gossip. Maybe you confided in a friend, and later they turned those words against you in anger. Maybe you told a family member, and they dismissed your cries as weakness. Each of those moments teaches a hard truth. Not everyone has earned access to your inner world. That doesn't make them evil, it just makes them human. Humans are limited. They can only hold what their own hearts can handle. That is why your pain must be filtered. Share it with God always. Share it with those who have proven loyalty, empathy, and love. But guard it from those who cannot understand its weight, for if they cannot even carry their own burdens, how will they ever carry yours? There is also strength in mystery. When people cannot read all your pain, they cannot use it against you. Silence protects you from manipulation. Enemies thrive on knowledge. When they know what hurts you, they know where to attack. When they know what breaks you, they know how to press. But when you carry your pain in silence, when you let your strength show instead of your wounds, you confuse those who would wish to harm you. Your silence becomes your shield. And in that shield, you discover resilience. Because the less you depend on people's reaction to your pain, the more you depend on God's healing in your spirit. That is where unshakable strength is born. The beauty of protecting your pain is that one day when it has healed, you will be able to share it not as a wound, but as wisdom. And that is when your story becomes powerful. The world does not need more people bleeding publicly just to feel seen. The world needs healed souls who can speak from scars, not open wounds. A scar says, "I was hurt, but I am whole." A scar says, "I survived." A scar carries no shame, only strength. But for pain to become a scar, it must be guarded during its fragile days. That is why you must never tell the depth of your pain to anyone, unless they are the kind of person who can help turn that wound into wisdom. Some of the greatest leaders, thinkers, and saints carried deep pain silently with God before they ever spoke about it to people. C.S. Lewis himself endured grief so heavy that it nearly broke him, yet he allowed that private struggle to be transformed into writings that still comfort millions. If he had thrown his raw pain carelessly into the world, it might have been crushed. But because he entrusted it to God first, it became gold refined by fire. That is the destiny of your pain too, if you protect it long enough to let God turn it into power. The heart is the most sacred space within us. It carries our dreams, our fears, our visions, and the whisper of God's voice that others may never hear. Inside it lives the truth about who we are and who we are becoming. And not every secret of the heart was meant to be shared with the world. Some things are placed in you, like divine seeds that need time and silence before they bloom. When you tell the secrets of your heart too freely, you risk exposing what is still fragile, and fragile things often break under the wrong eyes. Think about the way people treat mystery. Mystery invites respect, curiosity, and reverence. When everything about you is exposed, people stop valuing what is sacred in you. The mystery of the heart is what keeps you strong. When God gives you a vision, a calling, or a secret desire, it is like a tender flame placed in the darkness. That flame can warm your soul, guide your steps, and give you light when no one else understands. But if you take that flame and hand it into the wrong hands, someone careless can extinguish it with one breath of doubt, mockery, or jealousy. There are dreams that die not because they lack potential, but because they were spoken to people who cannot see their worth. Even science shows the danger of oversharing. When people reveal their personal goals too soon, their brain releases dopamine, the same chemical that comes from achievement. The body feels the reward before the action is complete. And because of that, motivation weakens, progress slows, and the dream loses its fire. You see, there's power in silence. When you hold the secrets of your heart close, the energy burns hotter, the desire grows stronger, and the discipline to protect it sharpens. That is why many successful people keep their most sacred visions hidden until the time is right. They know that silence fuels action, and words without timing can sabotage destiny. Let's bring this into real life. Think about Joseph from the ancient story. He had dreams given by God, dreams of greatness, of rising to power, of being lifted above his brothers. But when he shared those secrets too early, jealousy was stirred, betrayal was born, and suffering followed. His story teaches us something timeless. Not everyone can handle the weight of your vision. Even those closest to you may not understand. Sometimes their hearts are not prepared to see you rise. Sometimes their insecurities speak louder than their love. That is why guarding the secrets of your heart is not selfishness, it is wisdom. There is another layer to this truth. When you reveal too much, you open doors for spiritual opposition. The enemy cannot always see what God has placed in you, but when you declare it recklessly, you make yourself a target. Silence becomes your armor. Your secret becomes your shield. Every great movement in history began in silence, in a hidden place, in quiet preparation, in sacred secrecy. And when the time was right, it burst forth with a power no enemy could stop. Your heart also holds not just dreams, but wounds, desires, and questions that are not ready to be handled by everyone. When you pour your deepest secrets into untrustworthy people, you risk being misunderstood. And misunderstanding is painful. It can leave you doubting your own worth, doubting your own calling, doubting the very voice of God inside you. The wrong listener can twist your secret into something ugly. They can take your holy longing and make it sound foolish. They can take your sacred vision and reduce it to a childish fantasy. And if you are not careful, you will start believing their version instead of the truth God placed in you. Psychology calls it internalization. When people we trust dismiss our dreams or mock our secrets, we internalize their voice. It becomes an inner critic that repeats their doubts even when they are not around. That is why it is so dangerous to share the most delicate parts of your heart with just anyone. Because words stick. And once spoken, they echo inside you. Protecting your secrets is protecting your future self from carrying unnecessary chains. There is wisdom in delay. Some secrets are not meant to be spoken until they are ready to stand on their own. Think about a baby growing in the womb. If you tried to bring it into the world too soon, it would not survive. It needs the hidden months, the silence, the nourishment that no one can see. Your heart's secrets are like that baby. They need silence to grow strong. And when the right time comes, they will emerge fully alive, ready to thrive. In our modern culture, people confuse openness with authenticity. They think sharing everything makes you real. But realness is not in exposure. Realness is in integrity. It is in knowing when to speak and when to be silent. It is in knowing what to reveal and what to protect. There's a kind of power in mystery that no full disclosure can replace. A strong soul does not need to be understood by everyone. A strong soul walks with God in the silence of hidden secrets, knowing that one day the truth will reveal itself in action, not in words. The danger of telling the secrets of your heart is also tied to jealousy. There are people who cannot celebrate what God has given you because it exposes what they lack. Jealousy blinds them, and instead of supporting your secret, they seek to sabotage it. This is why even in friendships, even in families, even in close circles, you must discern what is safe to reveal. Your heart is a garden, and not every visitor should know where the rarest flowers grow. Because some may trample them, not out of malice, but out of blindness. They cannot see the value, so they treat it carelessly. God himself keeps secrets. The mysteries of creation, the unfolding of destiny, the details of tomorrow, he does not reveal them all at once. He knows that secrets are sacred because timing is sacred. If God guards mysteries, how much more should we guard the secrets of our own hearts? To carry a secret is not a burden, it is a trust. It means God has placed something in you so precious that it must be shielded until it is ready. That alone should fill you with awe. There's also beauty in privacy. In a world where everything is broadcasted, privacy is power. When people cannot predict your every move, when they cannot read every thought, when they cannot access every secret, you remain untouchable. Your peace is safe because your heart is safe. Your joy is protected because not everyone knows its source. And your calling is unshakable because it does not depend on public validation. One of the most liberating truths is this: not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Access must be earned by love, loyalty, and proven trust. Just as a bank does not hand its vault key to strangers, you must not hand your heart's secrets to casual listeners. The vault of your heart is where God places destiny, and you are the guardian. Every secret you keep safe strengthens your future. Every secret spoken recklessly weakens it. Choose your guardians wisely. Let your silence speak. Let your actions reveal. Let your growth become the evidence of what you once carried in secret. When the time comes, your life itself will declare what your lips kept quiet. And that declaration will be louder, stronger, and more undeniable than any premature words could have been. Remember this truth: not every person in your life is meant to know every part of your heart. Love does not always equal understanding. Proximity does not always equal trust. Relationship does not always equal safety. Guard your heart's secrets not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Guard them because they are holy. Guard them because they are the language between you and God. Guard them because the wrong ears can distort what the right ears would honor. The secrets of your heart are the blueprint of your destiny. Protect them until the architect, God Himself, says it is time to build in public. Until then, carry them with reverence. Speak them only in the silence of prayer, in the safety of wise counsel, or in the rare presence of those who have proven their love not just with words, but with sacrifice. Your heart is not a book for every passerby to read. It is a sacred library where only the worthy are allowed to enter. And when you guard it with wisdom, you will find that your secrets, once protected, grow into strength, clarity, and unshakable peace. That is when you will look back and realize why God whispered so clearly, "Never tell the secrets of your heart to anyone unless they are meant to carry that sacred trust with you." There are parts of us that God is shaping in silence, fragile places of weakness that He is slowly transforming into strength. Every human being has them. For some, it's the temper they battle quietly. For others, it's the habit they are still trying to break. For another, it may be the fear that lingers at night or the doubts that creep into the soul when no one else is watching. These weaknesses are not meant to be broadcasted to the world while they are still in the process of being healed. When God is at work in your heart, He is not asking you to announce the construction site. He is asking you to trust the process until the foundation is strong enough to stand. People often misunderstand the value of silence in growth. They think openness means telling everyone every flaw, every slip, every private struggle. But when you expose a weakness that is still raw, you invite opinions, judgment, and voices that may not align with God's voice. And the danger is that those voices can discourage you at the very time when encouragement is most needed. They may label you by your weakness, forgetting that God is rewriting your story. They may see the dirt, but not the diamond underneath. They may mock the process, not realizing the promise hidden within it. When you reveal what God is still shaping, you risk letting people define you by what you are overcoming instead of what you are becoming. Science itself tells us that the human brain is deeply affected by feedback during growth. If someone is learning a new skill and they receive discouragement instead of support, the brain releases stress hormones that slow learning and create mental resistance. In the same way, when you are overcoming a weakness, negative voices can paralyze progress. That is why God often hides your process. He knows you need space to grow without the weight of judgment. A butterfly does not break out of its cocoon while others are watching. It struggles alone, in silence, until its wings are strong enough to fly. The process is private because it is sacred. There is also a divine reason why weaknesses should not be spoken carelessly. Every weakness is like a crack in the armor. When you reveal that crack to the wrong person, you are showing them where to strike. Enemies, critics, or even those close to you in moments of anger can use your weakness as a weapon. They may remind you of it when you stumble. They may hold it over your head to keep you small. They may gossip about it, spreading your struggle as entertainment. And when that happens, you do not only carry the weakness itself, but also the burden of shame and betrayal. That is why wisdom says, never tell the weaknesses that God is helping you overcome. Let Him be the one to see your rawness. Let Him be the one to strengthen you in private until the day that weakness has turned into testimony. History is filled with examples of people who guarded their process. Great leaders, thinkers, and saints did not expose every inner battle while they were still in the fight. They trusted God to deal with their shadows while the world only saw their light. When the time was right, they spoke about their struggles, but not as confessions of defeat, rather as testimonies of victory. Their words carried weight because they were speaking from scars, not from wounds. And that is the difference. A wound bleeds when touched. A scar inspires when revealed. In our modern age, vulnerability is often celebrated without discernment. People think that sharing every detail of their weakness is a form of strength. But true strength is not in exposing yourself recklessly. It is in choosing wisely what to reveal and when to reveal it. Vulnerability without wisdom is self-sabotage. It invites voices that may not nurture but destroy. It confuses transparency with trust. But trust is not given to everyone. Trust is reserved for the few who have proven themselves safe. Your weaknesses are the workshop of God. That workshop is not a public arena. It is a hidden place where the potter molds the clay, where the sculptor chips away at the stone, where the gardener prunes the tree. These processes are painful, messy, and unfinished. If you invite a crowd into that space, they will not understand what the artist is doing. They will see a half-shaped statue and call it ugly. They will see dirt on the seed and think it is worthless. They will see cuts in the clay and believe it is broken. But the artist sees the final form. God knows what He is building in you. To protect that vision, He asks you to guard your weaknesses until His work is complete. There is also a psychological truth here. When you label yourself by your weaknesses publicly, your identity begins to merge with that weakness. You no longer see it as something you are overcoming. You begin to see it as who you are. And once identity fuses with struggle, change becomes harder. Words carry power, and when you speak your weakness carelessly, you strengthen it. That is why silence is not hiding, it is healing. By not speaking your weakness to everyone, you are not denying it, you are refusing to let it become your name. Think of how athletes train. When they are rebuilding strength after injury, they do it quietly, away from cameras, away from the crowd. They know the fragility of the process. They wait until the body is ready before stepping back into the spotlight. In the same way, your weaknesses must be worked on quietly, away from unnecessary eyes, until God has built strength in the very place that was once fragile. And then when you stand again, people will not see the weakness, they will see the strength that came from it. Even spiritually, your weaknesses are not meant to be paraded before the world. The Bible says God's strength is made perfect in weakness. That means the weakness is not the end of the story. It is the stage for God's power to show up. If you reveal the stage before the play begins, you confuse the audience. They see an empty platform, not realizing the masterpiece that is coming. But when you let God work, when the curtain finally opens, everyone will see His glory displayed through what once was your weakness. That is when your story has power, because it no longer points to your failure, but to His faithfulness. There is a quiet dignity in letting God carry your weakness, in pouring it out to Him in prayer, in tears, in surrender, rather than pouring it out recklessly to people who cannot heal you. People may listen, but they cannot restore. They may sympathize, but they cannot transform. Only God can take the thorn and turn it into testimony. Only He can take the weakness and make it a weapon of strength. So give Him your rawness, give Him your flaws, give Him your battles in secret. And when He is done, the world will see a victory they cannot deny. Every soul listening today has weaknesses. Maybe it is anger, maybe it is insecurity, maybe it is loneliness that drives you to unhealthy places. Do not shame yourself for having them. Weakness is part of being human, but do not give your weakness away as a story to people who cannot carry it. Protect it until God has turned it into wisdom. When you stand on the other side, your words will have the power to lift others who are still in the fight. And your story will not be one of defeat, but of triumph. The truth is, people respect strength, but they also exploit weakness. That is the duality of human nature. If you reveal the wrong weakness to the wrong heart, you may find it used against you. If you reveal it too soon, you may find yourself trapped by labels that no longer fit once God has transformed you. That is why the greatest wisdom is to stay silent in the struggle, to keep walking with God in trust until your weakness has become your strength. Then, and only then, will your story shine. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is protection. Your silence is strength. Your silence is the space where God does His greatest work. Do not be afraid of that silence. Do not rush to fill it with words. Trust the process. One day the silence will break, and your life itself will speak louder than any confession could. It will declare, "This is what God has done in me." And that testimony will carry a fire that no criticism can extinguish, no gossip can diminish, and no enemy can destroy. So guard your weaknesses. Guard them like treasure being refined in fire. Guard them like seeds hidden in soil. Guard them like wings still forming in the cocoon. Because when the time comes, those weaknesses will no longer be your shame. They will be the very places where God's glory shines brightest. And when that happens, you will not just inspire others, you will remind them that even in their weaknesses, God is still working, still shaping, still building strength that will one day change their story too. There comes a moment when words are no longer just sentences but keys, opening or locking doors that shape destiny. The truths we walk through together are not ordinary instructions. They are guardrails placed by a hand greater than ours, the same hand that knows the weight of your heart, the fragility of your spirit, and the vastness of your potential. Think about it. How many lives have been broken, not because of what was done, but because of what was spoken too soon, too carelessly, or to the wrong ears? God never wastes warnings. When He says never reveal these sacred parts of yourself, it is not to restrict you, but to protect you, to preserve the masterpiece He is still sculpting within you. Feel the silence inside you right now. It carries power, a holy kind of strength that makes you untouchable in a noisy world where everyone wants to be heard, but very few are truly seen. Your silence in the right places becomes your shield, your wisdom becomes your weapon, and your restraint becomes your crown. This is where faith and psychology align. The mind grows stronger when it learns to guard what the heart holds most dearly. Every scientific study about self-control, every spiritual whisper about discretion, and every story of triumph born out of patience confirms the same timeless truth. What you do not say is just as important as what you do. So step forward with the fire of discipline in your soul. Let fear awaken you, because loose words can cost you more than any battle ever could. Let excitement rise in you, because the moment you protect your divine secrets, doors will open that no enemy can shut. Let wisdom guide you, because not every friend is a confidant, not every audience deserves your song, and not every ear is worthy of the treasures hidden in your spirit. You are not called to scatter your pearls into the mud. You are called to walk with dignity, with strength, with vision that refuses to be clouded by careless chatter. If your life is a book, then not every page should be read aloud before it is written. Guard your future like a treasure chest. Keep your dreams like seeds buried deep in fertile soil, and carry your scars not as conversations for the curious, but as sacred lessons between you and God. There is a reason He whispers to your heart in the dark and not always in public, because what grows in the secret place is what changes the world in the open. So walk away from this moment with your head lifted high, with a fire burning in your chest and a stillness anchoring your soul. Let your silence speak. Let your actions echo louder than your words, and let your faith write the chapters you do not yet share. The power to transform your destiny is not only in what you do, but in what you refuse to say. And when you honor that sacred boundary, life itself will rise up and honor you.